Malik was a young architect with big dreams. Since childhood, he loved to draw buildings on scraps of paper. While other children played outside, Malik often sat under the shade of a tree, sketching tall towers, bridges, and houses that only existed in his imagination. His parents were not rich, but they always supported his talent. They told him that one day his designs could touch the sky. When Malik grew older, he worked hard to study architecture at a respected university. He faced many challenges along the way. Some people doubted him. Some said architecture was not for people like him. But Malik never gave up. He studied late into the night, learning how to balance strength with beauty, and how to turn a dream into a structure that could stand in the real world. After graduating, Malik searched for opportunities to prove himself. He worked on small projects, at first renovating shops, designing simple houses, and fixing broken roofs. These projects were not glamorous, but Malik treated every one of them with care. He believed even the smallest house deserved the best design. His honesty and dedication earned him respect in his neighborhood, but he wanted something more. He wanted a chance to create something big, something that would change how people looked at him and his work. That chance came when a famous company announced a design competition. The company was led by a wealthy and powerful CEO named Mr. Brown. He was known for being strict and proud. His company wanted to build a new headquarters, a building that would stand as a symbol of power and innovation. The CEO declared that he wanted something that seemed impossible, something the world had never seen before. Architects from all over the country prepared to submit their designs. Many were experienced professionals with large teams, while Malik was young and mostly worked alone. Yet, when Malik heard about the competition, his heart burned with excitement. He knew this was the opportunity he had been waiting for. He spent days preparing his portfolio, polishing his old sketches, and carefully writing about his vision. Finally, with courage in his heart, he walked into the company's tall glass building to submit his application. The lobby was grand, filled with shining marble floors and golden lights. Malik felt small compared to the wealthy businessmen and women moving around him, but he reminded himself why he was there. He wanted his talent to speak louder than his appearance or his background. When his turn came to meet the selection panel, he entered a room where several judges sat. Among them was Mr. Brown himself, sitting at the center of a long table. The CEO's presence was heavy. His suit was sharp, his watch sparkled, and his eyes were sharp like cold steel. He looked at Malik with a raised brow, as if questioning why someone so young and unknown had dared to apply. "Your name is Malik?" the CEO asked in a firm tone. "Yes, sir," Malik answered with calm respect. Mr. Brown looked at his papers and then at Malik again. "I see you don't have much experience. This competition is not for dreamers. It requires skill, power, and years of success. Do you really think you can create something impossible?" The room went silent. Some of the judges exchanged doubtful glances. Malik felt their eyes pressing on him, but he stood straight. "I believe," Malik said, "that impossible things are only waiting to be designed. Every great building was once called impossible before it was built." Some judges smiled at his courage, but Mr. Brown only smirked. He leaned back in his chair and said, "We will see. Show us what you can do. But remember, failure here is not forgiven." With that, Malik was accepted into the competition. He would be given a short time to present his design for the company's headquarters. Walking out of the building, Malik's heart raced. He knew this was the biggest challenge of his life. Many people would expect him to fail. Some would laugh at the idea of a young man like him competing against the most powerful architects in the country. Even the CEO had mocked him in front of the panel. But Malik was not afraid. He felt a fire in his chest. For him, this was not just about a building. It was about respect. It was about proving that talent and determination mattered more than wealth or power. That night, Malik sat at his small desk with a lamp glowing beside him. Papers, pencils, and rulers covered the table. He stared at the blank sheet before him, knowing that this design could change his life forever. He whispered to himself, "They said it's impossible. Then I will make it possible." And with that, Malik began to draw. The next morning, Malik returned to the company office for the official briefing of the competition. He entered a large conference hall where all the participants had gathered. The room was filled with men and women in fine suits, some with whole teams of assistants standing behind them. They carried laptops, tablets, and thick files filled with past projects. Malik, in his simple shirt and with only a sketchbook under his arm, felt out of place. But Malik reminded himself why he was there. He had not come to impress people with wealth or clothing. He had come to impress them with ideas. At the front of the hall, Mr. Brown, the CEO, stepped onto the stage. His tall figure and commanding voice captured everyone's attention. He looked around the room with pride, as if he owned not just the company but every architect standing before him. "Welcome," he said firmly. "This is not just another design contest. This is a test of vision. I want a building that will make the world stop and stare. I want something that seems impossible. Ordinary designs will not even be considered. If you cannot handle the challenge, I suggest you leave now." A quiet tension spread across the room. No one dared to move. Everyone wanted a chance to impress the CEO. Mr. Brown continued, "You will each have 2 weeks to present your final design. The winner will not only receive a large contract but will also have their name remembered in history. However, I warn you, if your design is weak, if it lacks imagination, do not think I will be gentle in my judgment." He paused and scanned the faces before him. When his eyes landed on Malik, he smirked. The smirk was small, but Malik noticed it. After the briefing, the participants were allowed to ask questions. One of the older architects stood and asked about the location of the building. Mr. Brown explained that the headquarters would be built in the center of the city, on a wide piece of land surrounded by tall skyscrapers. "It must rise above the rest," he said, "and it must be unique. If it looks like any other building, it is worthless to me." As the meeting ended, the architects gathered in groups, whispering about ideas. Malik stood alone at the edge of the room, holding his sketchbook. Suddenly, Mr. Brown walked past him, followed by 2 senior managers. He stopped, turned slightly, and looked at Malik. "So, young man," Mr. Brown said loud enough for others to hear, "do you really believe you can create something impossible with only that little sketchbook?" The room grew quiet. Some participants chuckled softly. One even whispered, "This boy is wasting his time." Malik met the CEO's eyes and answered calmly, "I do not need many tools, sir. I only need my mind and my vision." The CEO let out a short laugh. "Vision? Let me give you advice. Vision without experience is nothing but a child's dream. You may think you can draw something magical, but buildings are not dreams. They are hard, heavy, and real. You cannot build the impossible." Several people laughed openly this time. Malik felt their laughter like stones hitting his chest, but he did not lower his head. Instead, he replied, "Maybe so, but every great building was once a dream before it became real." The hall grew silent again. Some looked at Malik with surprise, impressed by his courage to answer back. Mr. Brown, however, narrowed his eyes. His pride did not enjoy being challenged. He leaned closer and said in a cold voice, "We will see if your dream survives 2 weeks. I look forward to freezing your smile when reality crushes you." With that, the CEO walked away, leaving Malik standing alone. That evening, Malik sat at his desk once again. The words of the CEO echoed in his mind. He felt the weight of doubt pressing down, but he also felt his spirit rise against it. He remembered his parents' encouragement. He remembered the long nights of study and the small projects he had completed with care. He whispered to himself, "I will not let him be right. I will not let him laugh at me." Malik began sketching. His hand moved quickly, shaping lines and curves. He imagined a tower that would rise above the city like a crown, shining with both strength and beauty. But as he drew, he realized it was harder than he thought. The CEO's words had truth: dreams were easy, but turning them into real, stable buildings required skill. He tore one page, then another. Again and again, his designs failed to satisfy him. He wanted something bold, something the world had never seen, but nothing felt right. The night grew late, and his lamp flickered. Malik leaned back in his chair, tired but not defeated. He looked at the pile of crumpled papers beside him and whispered, "There must be a way." At that moment, he thought about the city itself: the busy streets, the rushing people, the towers competing for height but all looking the same. Then an idea began to take shape in his mind. What if his design was not just about height, but about meaning? What if the building told a story? His eyes lit up with excitement. He grabbed a fresh sheet and began to sketch again, this time with new energy. The design that formed on the paper was unlike any he had ever attempted before. Malik smiled for the first time that night. He had no certainty yet, but he felt that he was moving closer to something truly impossible. Malik woke up early the next morning with a restless mind. His sketch from the night before still lay on the desk. He looked at it again and felt a spark of hope, but he also knew the real challenge was only beginning. Making the impossible possible required more than just one sketch. He prepared breakfast quickly, but his thoughts were far from food. His eyes stayed fixed on the lines and shapes of his design. He wondered if it could stand, if it could survive real construction. He remembered the CEO's cold voice saying dreams could not be built. Malik pressed his hand on the paper and whispered, "I will prove him wrong." He spent the entire day studying books and notes he had collected from his university years. He searched for ways to combine beauty and strength, to give life to an idea without breaking the rules of physics. He looked at bridges, towers, domes, and ancient wonders. He asked himself why people in history were able to build things others once thought impossible. By evening, his small room was filled with sketches. Some showed tall towers shaped like rising flames. Others showed wide bases like shields holding the weight above. Still, Malik was not satisfied. Every time he finished a design, doubt crept in. Would it be strong enough? Would it impress the CEO? Or would they all laugh at him again? The following day, Malik decided to step outside. He walked through the city streets, observing the tall buildings around him. Most of them were glass towers, shiny but lifeless. They looked strong, but they had no soul. Malik thought, a building should not just stand in the city. It should speak to the city. It should tell the people who walk by it that they belong to something greater. While walking, he stopped near a park where children played. Their laughter filled the air. He watched them run and climb, full of energy. Then his eyes landed on a group of people sitting on benches, workers resting after long hours. The contrast touched his heart. The city was full of dreams and struggles. Maybe his design could be more than just a tower. Maybe it could represent hope, strength, and unity. That night, Malik returned home with fresh inspiration. He began sketching again. This time, his building rose upward like a pair of open hands, holding the sky. Between the two rising shapes, there was space for light to pass through, symbolizing hope breaking through darkness. Around the base, he designed open areas where people could gather, gardens where workers could rest, and halls where communities could meet. When he finished the rough sketch, Malik leaned back and stared at it for a long time. His chest filled with pride. It was bold, unique, and meaningful. But then the fear returned. Could such a design even stand? Would engineers call it foolish? Would the CEO mock him even more? Malik decided he needed advice. The next morning, he visited his old university professor, Mr. Harris, who had always encouraged him during his studies. "Sir," Malik said, showing his sketches, "I have entered a competition, but the CEO himself said my dream is impossible. I want to design something that feels alive, something that speaks to people. But I do not know if this can truly be built." Professor Harris studied the drawings carefully. His old eyes moved from line to line, and he nodded slowly. After some silence, he smiled. "Malik, this is daring. It is not simple, and it will be hard to make it stand. But listen to me, architecture is not only about numbers. It is about courage. The world does not remember safe designs. It remembers those who dared to dream big and worked hard to prove those dreams real. Do not give up on this." His words filled Malik with renewed energy. For the next several days, Malik worked without rest. He calculated angles, measured spaces, and adjusted heights. Every time he faced a problem, he found a solution, even if it meant starting a part over. His small desk was always covered with pencils, rulers, and papers, but his heart was light. Each night, when his lamp glowed in the darkness, he whispered, "This is my chance. I must not fail." Still, the pressure grew heavier as the deadline approached. Malik knew the CEO was waiting to see him fail. He knew the other architects, with their teams and resources, were preparing powerful designs. Malik had no team, no expensive software, and no assistants. He only had his mind, his sketches, and his will. On the last night before submission, Malik sat with his final design in front of him. His hands trembled slightly as he traced the lines. It was beautiful, bold, and full of meaning. Yet deep inside, he still feared. "What if they laugh again?" he whispered. "What if this dream dies here?" Then he remembered the park, the children laughing, the workers resting. He remembered his parents' words and his professor's encouragement. He took a deep breath and said, "No, I will not fear. If they laugh, let them laugh. If they doubt, let them doubt. But this design is my voice, and my voice will not be silent." With that, Malik carefully packed his sketches and prepared for the big day. The day of the first presentation arrived. All the architects gathered again in the company's grand hall. The air was thick with tension. Some people whispered quietly about their designs, while others looked confident, holding heavy files and digital models. Malik sat quietly in one corner, his sketchbook and rolled drawings resting on his lap. Mr. Brown, the CEO, walked onto the stage with his usual cold pride. His sharp eyes scanned the room before he spoke. "Today, we will see who has the courage and skill to bring something impossible to life. Each of you will show your progress. Do not waste my time with weak ideas." One by one, the architects presented. Large screens displayed shiny 3D models of glass towers twisting like spirals, bridges connecting rooftops, and golden domes rising into the sky. The judges clapped politely, but Mr. Brown showed little emotion. His face remained serious, his hands folded on the table. Finally, Malik's name was called. The hall went quiet. Some participants leaned back, expecting to see a child's attempt. Malik stood, his heart pounding, and walked to the front. He unrolled his drawings on the table, showing his design of the twin rising structures shaped like open hands, holding the sky. He explained in a clear voice, "This building is more than just glass and steel. It is a message. The open hands symbolize unity and strength. The space between them allows light to pass through, showing hope even in dark times. The base is not only for business but also for people, with gardens and halls for the community. This building is not just a tower. It is a voice of the city." Some of the judges leaned forward, curious. They whispered among themselves. A few even nodded with interest. But Mr. Brown stared at the drawings without speaking. Finally, he chuckled, and the sound echoed across the hall. "Impossible," he said with a mocking smile. "Hands reaching for the sky? Open spaces in the middle of a tower? This design cannot even stand. Do you think steel and stone will listen to your poetry? You speak of unity and hope, but this is a business headquarters, not a storybook. Your dream has no ground." Laughter filled the hall from some of the participants. A few shook their heads as if Malik's effort was nothing more than a child's fantasy. Malik felt his chest tighten, but he did not lower his head. He replied, "Every great building was called impossible before someone proved it could stand. I believe this design can be built. It only needs the chance." Mr. Brown's smile grew sharper. "Belief is not enough. Numbers and strength decide what can be built. This design will collapse before it reaches half its height. You want to give me open hands, but I see only empty hands." The laughter grew louder. Malik felt heat rise in his face, but he stayed calm. He carefully rolled his drawings again and bowed slightly before leaving the stage. When he sat down, some participants whispered behind him. "He wasted his time," one said. "The CEO is right. That building would never stand," another added. Malik closed his eyes for a moment, blocking out their words. Deep inside, he knew the CEO was not completely wrong. His first attempt lacked detailed support. His design was bold, but the structure needed more strength. That night, Malik walked home slowly through the city. The tall towers around him looked like they were laughing too, shining coldly under the night lights. He entered his small room and placed the drawings on his desk. His heart was heavy, and for a moment, he thought about giving up. But then he remembered the park, the children, and the tired workers. He remembered the professor's words, "Architecture is not only about numbers. It is about courage." Malik sat down, picked up his pencil, and whispered, "I failed today, but I will not fail forever." He began again. He studied how bridges held weight, how arches could stand for centuries, how ancient builders used clever techniques without modern machines. Slowly, he saw solutions forming in his mind. The open hands design could work if he used hidden supports, if he balanced weight with precision, if he combined old wisdom with modern science. The nights that followed were long and silent. Malik barely slept. His desk filled with new sketches, stronger and smarter than before. For every weakness the CEO had pointed out, Malik created a new answer. For every laugh he had heard, he drew a line of determination. Sometimes he felt his hands tremble from exhaustion, but his spirit did not break. He told himself, "They said impossible. I will show them possible." Days turned into nights, and nights into days. The competition deadline drew closer, but Malik's design grew sharper and more powerful with every passing hour. He no longer feared failure. He only thought of the moment when the world would see the truth. The days passed quickly, and the deadline for the final submission grew near. Malik's small room was filled with rolled drawings, broken pencils, and empty cups of tea. His lamp burned late into the night, as if it shared his determination. But despite all his effort, doubt still followed him. He knew his first attempt had been laughed at. He knew the CEO had mocked him in front of everyone. Even now, when he looked at his improved sketches, he wondered if it was enough. One evening, Malik sat back in his chair and closed his tired eyes. He thought about the tall towers of the city, each trying to outshine the other, yet none of them truly touching people's hearts. He thought about the CEO's words that buildings were hard, heavy, and real. Malik whispered, "Yes, they are heavy, but they can also carry meaning. They can carry hope." As he sat in silence, a memory came to him. He remembered walking as a child with his father, who worked as a mason. His father once pointed to a simple stone bridge and said, "This bridge may look small, but it carries thousands of footsteps every day. Strength is not only in size. Strength is in balance. The words struck Malik like a spark. Balance, that was the answer. His design of the open hands did not need to fight against gravity. It only needed to balance with it. Malik jumped up, grabbed a pencil, and began sketching again with fresh energy. This time, he added hidden arches at the base, shaped in ways that could distribute weight evenly. He used curved steel supports within the hands, giving them the strength of both old bridges and modern towers. He designed crossbeams that worked like the bones of a human hand, strong yet flexible. As the lines formed on the paper, Malik's eyes shone. The design still looked like open hands reaching for the sky, but now it had the strength to stand. It was no longer just a dream. It was a possibility. For the next few days, Malik worked like a man possessed. He visited libraries, searched through engineering books, and studied how nature itself balanced strength and beauty. He looked at trees that stood tall for centuries, their roots hidden deep in the ground. He looked at shells and wings, at mountains and rivers. Nature became his teacher, showing him how to make the impossible real. Every time doubt returned, Malik reminded himself of his father's words about balance. He whispered, "If nature can do it, so can I." At last, Malik completed his final design. He placed it on the desk and stared at it in silence. It was bold, strong, and full of meaning. The twin towers rose like open hands, with beams and arches hidden cleverly inside, ensuring stability. The open space between them was shaped to catch sunlight at dawn and dusk, making the building glow like a beacon. The base was wide and solid, with gardens and halls where people could gather. Malik felt tears touch his eyes, not of sadness but of pride. This was his breakthrough. He had turned laughter into inspiration and mockery into determination. The next morning, Malik decided to test his idea before showing it to the judges. He built a small model using simple materials: cardboard, sticks, and glue. It was not perfect, but when he placed weight on it, the model stood firm. His heart leapt with joy. He knew the real structure would need expert engineers, but the concept was sound. It could work. On the final night before submission, Malik packed his drawings and his model carefully. He placed them on the table and sat in front of them. His lamp glowed softly, and the city outside was quiet. He spoke to himself, as if speaking to the future, "Tomorrow, they will see. They may laugh again, but they will not laugh for long. This building is not just steel and stone. It is proof that dreams can stand. And when they see it, even the CEO will know he was wrong." Malik slept late that night, but his sleep was peaceful. For the first time in weeks, he felt no fear. He knew he had done his best. He had turned doubt into design, and failure into strength. The morning sun rose, shining through his window. Malik dressed neatly, picked up his rolled drawings and the small model, and walked out of his little room with steady steps. The world outside was busy as always, but for Malik, everything seemed different. The city that once felt heavy now felt like it was waiting for him. As he walked toward the company building, people rushed by, unaware of his silent determination. His heart was calm. He whispered, "This is my moment. This is where impossible will become possible." The glass doors of the company stood ahead, tall and shining. Malik pushed them open, holding tightly to his design. He was ready to face the judges, ready to face the CEO, and ready to face the world. The final presentation day arrived with a heavy air of expectation. The company hall was filled with judges, investors, and respected architects. Everyone knew this was not just a contest. It was history in the making. Whoever won would design the new headquarters of one of the most powerful companies in the country. Malik entered the hall carrying his rolled drawings and the small model he had worked on through sleepless nights. His heart was steady, though he knew many eyes were watching him with doubt. Some participants glanced at him with smirks, whispering that he would fail again. But Malik ignored them. He whispered to himself, "I am ready." The presentations began. One by one, architects stood proudly at the front, displaying their advanced digital screens and computer models. Some designed spiraling glass towers that twisted into the sky. Others showed shining cubes and pyramids filled with golden reflections. The judges nodded politely at each design, while investors whispered among themselves. Mr. Brown, the CEO, sat in the center of the front row. His expression was sharp, and his eyes judged every detail. He clapped softly when each architect finished, but he gave no real sign of approval. Finally, Malik's name was called. The room went silent. People leaned forward, waiting to see if the young man who had been mocked earlier would embarrass himself again. Malik walked to the front, placed his model carefully on the table, and unrolled his drawings with calm hands. He stood straight and spoke with a clear voice. "This is my design. It is not just a tower of glass and steel. It is a symbol. Two hands rising together, open toward the sky. They represent unity, strength, and hope. The space between them is not empty. It is light, a path for the sun to shine through, reminding people that even in dark times, there is always a way forward." The judges leaned closer. Investors whispered to one another with interest. Malik pointed to the drawings, explaining the details. The structure is balanced using hidden arches at the base, distributing weight like bridges that have stood for centuries. The beams inside the towers act like bones of the hand, strong, flexible, and able to carry pressure. This design combines modern technology with natural balance. It can be built, and it will stand. He lifted the small model and placed weight on top of it. To the surprise of many, the model did not fall. It held firm. Gasps spread across the hall. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then one of the judges, an older architect with silver hair, spoke softly, "Remarkable." Another judge nodded. "Bold and meaningful," he added. The investors exchanged looks. Some of them smiled, clearly impressed. The whispers grew louder, and Malik could see that many eyes no longer looked at him with doubt but with respect. But Mr. Brown did not smile. He leaned back in his chair, his eyes locked on the model. His face showed no laughter this time. He studied it closely, and for the first time, his expression froze. The same CEO who had once mocked Malik, saying dreams could not stand, now sat silent before a design that seemed impossible yet stood firm even in model form. Malik looked at him calmly and said, "You once told me that dreams cannot be built. Today, I show you they can." The room was silent again. Everyone waited for the CEO's reaction. For a long moment, Mr. Brown said nothing. His fingers tapped lightly on the armrest of his chair. His sharp eyes moved from the model to Malik and back again. Finally, he spoke in a low, steady voice, "This is unexpected." Gasps filled the hall. The CEO, who never admitted surprise, had just confessed it. Some judges smiled, sensing the shift in power. The investors leaned forward, eager to hear more. Mr. Brown cleared his throat and added, "I said I wanted something impossible. You may have given me exactly that. But the question remains, can this truly be built at full scale? Words and models are not enough." Malik answered with steady confidence, "Yes, sir. It can be built. The design follows principles of balance used by both nature and ancient builders. With modern technology, it is not only possible but achievable. Give me the chance, and I will prove it." The hall buzzed with excitement. Judges whispered that this design could become a landmark. Investors spoke about how people across the world would travel just to see such a building. For the first time, Malik felt the weight of doubt lift completely from his shoulders. He stood tall, not as a boy mocked for his dreams, but as an architect who had shown courage and vision. Mr. Brown remained silent, his face unreadable. But everyone could see the truth in his frozen expression. The CEO who once laughed now faced something he could not laugh at. As Malik carried his model back to the table, the hall filled with quiet respect. He sat down calmly, his heart at peace. Whatever the final decision would be, he had already won something greater. He had proven that impossible could stand. The hall was still buzzing with whispers after Malik's presentation. Some judges looked at him with approval, while others seemed deep in thought. The investors exchanged excited glances, already imagining the grand building rising in the heart of the city. Malik sat silently, his hands resting on his sketchbook. He knew the hardest part was not over yet. The decision rested in the hands of the judges and the CEO. One by one, the remaining architects completed their presentations. Their designs were impressive, full of glass, steel, and modern flair, but none carried the same story or meaning that Malik's design had. Even as they presented, the whispers always returned to the young architect who had turned open hands into a tower of hope. At last, Mr. Brown stood. His tall frame and cold presence once again commanded silence. He looked over the hall slowly before speaking. This competition was about more than just buildings, he said firmly. It was about vision, courage, and the strength to make the impossible real. I have seen many designs today, but one has captured the room in a way I did not expect. The audience leaned forward, waiting for his words. Malik sat still, his heart beating but his face calm. Mr. Brown turned his eyes directly toward him. Young man, when you first came here, I doubted you. I even mocked your ideas. I said dreams cannot stand. But today, you have shown me something I did not think possible. Your design is bold, meaningful, and strong. It has the power to not only stand in the city but also speak to it. For that reason, I declare you the winner of this competition. The hall erupted in applause. Some judges clapped warmly, others nodded with respect, and even the investors smiled in agreement. Malik sat frozen for a moment, his eyes wide. He could hardly believe what he had just heard. The same CEO who once mocked him now praised him before everyone. Slowly, Malik stood and bowed respectfully. He spoke in a steady voice, "Thank you, sir. I did not design this to win. I designed it because I believe buildings should carry meaning. I am honored that you see its value." Mr. Brown gave a small nod. His sharp expression softened for the first time. "You remind me," he said, "that greatness is not born from pride, but from courage. You have proven me wrong, and I respect that." The investors approached Malik after the announcement. Some offered handshakes, others congratulated him warmly. One of them said, "This building will change the face of the city. People will come from far and wide to see it. You are not only building a tower, Malik, you are building history." Malik thanked them with humility, though inside his heart was overflowing with joy. He remembered the nights of doubt, the laughter he had endured, the weight of failure pressing on him, and the voice of his father telling him that strength was in balance. All of it had led to this moment. When the hall emptied, Malik remained for a while, looking at his small model resting on the table. He touched it gently and whispered, "We did it." In the days that followed, news of Malik's victory spread quickly. Newspapers wrote about the young architect who had defeated the most experienced professionals with a design everyone once thought impossible. Magazines printed images of his open-hands tower, calling it the future landmark of the city. People on the streets began to talk about it with excitement. But for Malik, the greatest reward was not the fame or the contract. It was the respect. The same people who once doubted him now looked at him differently. His voice, his ideas, his vision, all of it was now heard. Construction of the headquarters began months later. Malik worked side by side with engineers, ensuring every detail of his design was followed. It was not easy. There were countless challenges, but Malik never gave up. He faced every problem with the same courage that had carried him through the competition. Slowly, the building began to rise. Day by day, the city watched as the two great towers reached upward, shaped like open hands toward the sky. The sunlight passed through the space between them, casting golden light across the streets. People stopped to admire it, realizing they were witnessing something unique. One evening, as Malik stood near the construction site, he saw children pointing at the rising structure with excitement. Workers rested nearby, smiling at the sight of what they were building. Malik's heart filled with pride. He whispered, "This is for all of you." When the building was finally completed, it became more than just a company headquarters. It became a landmark, a symbol of hope and unity for the entire city. People traveled from other countries just to see it. Photographers captured its beauty, and students studied its design as inspiration. And one day, as Malik stood at the top floor of the finished tower, looking at the city below, he remembered the moment when Mr. Brown had laughed at him. He smiled softly and thought, sometimes, being mocked is only the first step to being remembered. Malik had proven to the world that the impossible was only waiting for someone brave enough to try.